our broadcast are never hello, welcome. It's always something else. It's always like, oh, we're gonna do something. Oh, I need to tweet.
They know what to expect at this point.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, hey,
I mean, nobody's here for the first
Leftists.
30 seconds, so
Yeah, well, I mean, we do post it to YouTube, so
okay,
there's that.
The thing is, we just need to trim it down once we post it. But I used to do that. I used to go live and I just like cut like the first 5 minutes on bullshitting. But who cares? that's what I think, right? I don't think people really be upset about shit. I'm working on. I'm gonna tweet this out. I haven't tweeted anything about the show today, so let me know that we got Pat the Berner in the house today. And then we have a few topics that we roll by. But welcome to the show. Welcome to Fred Hampton Leftists. My good friend Pat the Berner. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on. Gotten to know you and Jackie a bit over the last year, and you guys are politically we're in sync pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Every time I see your tweets, I'm always nodding in agreement. What we're gonna do today, I have a few topics because I haven't been on the show for the last few days. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying the content because we've been having daily uploads, having our crew hit you guys with content. So I am back, and I have a lot of things to talk about as well. The first thing I want to bring up is, obviously we have the horrific police violence situations. I talked to Jackie and our crew here. I need to really get this tweet out. But I really don't follow those stories that much. Have you followed the most recent shooting, Jackie, at all? Because I honestly can get barely any details on it. Because I'm already radicalized. But do you know much about what happened?
Jackie?
I don't know if Jackie's there.
Wait, me? I thought he was talking to you.
No, he asked you, but
I'm gonna tweet this out.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi, Holly, and the popular voice. I don't pay attention to police brutality because that shit's depressing. I haven't been paying attention.
Go ahead, Pat.
I was just gonna say that I have followed it somewhat, but I don't follow it like it's some breaking news story I need all the details on. Like CNN and MSNBC, when this stuff happens, they're just 24-hour, train wreck, horse show, car accident. They love this stuff because people dial into all the details of what happened. But, to bring anyone up to speed who doesn't know the basics, a guy was pulled over for tags on his car being overdue. And then, he was cooperating, but ultimately didn't get out of the car. But, they got guns drawn in on him. I think he was in a gas station or something. It looked like it. And then they opened the door and tried to pull him out. And then the female officer, who apparently had been on the force for 30, 40 years, long time, pulled out her gun in the struggle and shot him. And they released the live footage of it from her own body cam. And as soon as she does it, she says, "Oh my God, I shot him," as he drives off. So he got shot and then drove off. But the idea that she grabbed the the story is she meant to grab the taser, grab the gun. But the gun is like 4 times heavier than the taser. The taser is supposed to be on your left. The gun's on the right. They go through a lot of training on this stuff. Was it an accident? Was it a panic in the moment thing? I don't know. But what are you doing, tasing some dude, yanking him out of his car when you could just ask him for his registration? You don't need to get someone out of their car for tags. So, the whole thing is it's just another example. You just add it to the next, the last 30, 40 examples of this in the last 2 years, Yeah, and she resigned today, I believe. Oh, the chief resigned? I've seen in the comments someone said the chief resigned. I've seen in the comments someone said the chief resigned.
Okay.
It looks like we lost Nick for a second. Oh, there he is. He's back.
Like, I think I put one wrong button. I actually just but we see the difference in how they handle black suspects and how they handle white mass shooters, for example. So they
The comments are cracking me up.
it's funny how I always say, "Oh, it was an accident" when a black person is killed by the police. Why is it always an accident that always go in the way of killing a black person? But meanwhile, you have all these white mass shooters who always get away, get arrested peacefully, and somehow there's never an accident when it comes to apprehending these people. So that's why my passion the last year has been police abolition. I've been working with that on 10 demands. Then we're going to do a special live show next Monday to break down their second demand, which is demilitarizing the police, which is very important because I'm going to cover this story here very soon with, once again, Joe Biden not being any lesser to evil. I mean, there's an increase of flow of military gear under Joe Biden. Once again, I'm going to cover that story very soon. But as someone who advocates for direct action, anyone here at Fred Hampton Leftist Network here, we don't put too much stock in electoral politics. We kind of focus on direct action. But a left need to understand that this is why defund the police need to be one of our top priorities, because you can't have direct action coming from the left without a fascist militaristic police force that will crack our heads. They are one of our biggest obstacles of direct action, of actually fighting against the corporate establishment in the streets. Because there was a good point, I'm going to turn it over here to Pat and get his thoughts on this, because there was a good point when the January 6th incident happened where people were like, there's no way any sort of left-wing mob would be able to pull out what they did because the police will just shoot them. Meanwhile, if you look at how they handle people at Standing Rock, Ferguson, and even the Black Lives Matter protests in Portland yesterday, there's a completely different response that you get out of the left wing than you get out of the right. Why do you think that is, Pat? Do you got anything added to that?
I mean, it's simple. It's just racist police forces. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's been racism within the police forces have been institutionalized forever. I mean, strategically white supremacists infused themselves in every police force across the country. You know, so I mean, if you look at all the mass shooters, you know, the white mass shooters, they walk away from these things with their guns strapped on them and turn themselves in and walk away. You know, meanwhile, you got unarmed black people in cars just getting shot because they, you know, they're asked to get out of their car instead of just hand out their registration like most people would be. You know, I've never been asked to get out of the car over my registration tags being, you know, expired. And I've been pulled over for my registration tag is being expired. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, you look at all the mass shootings, and that you look at Charleston, the guy that the guy that pulled a gun after the incident where they ran over the protester. He's palling around, turned himself in. You know, like the idea that a black person is going to do something like that, and then with gun in hand, walk up and approach a police officer and turn themselves in, it's not going to end well 99% of the time. I mean, that's just, it's just straight up racism within the police force.
You know what? I'm very tired of this. And this kind of leads to our next story, because I'm even seeing the tide shift to the point where we see liberals are supportive of bashing cops. I've seen a lot of it throughout the last few weeks. Meanwhile, I get very annoyed when it comes to hearing liberal dialogue regarding the police force, because you got to understand what their conclusion is. I mean, they bash cops, but their conclusion is that we should be funding them more money. So what I see the Democratic Party do, and they have the same cycle for a very long time, they will discuss police violence. They use black exploitation to drive up fundraisers and drive up votes. Then once they do that, they then shift the funds to more police training. So it's quite
that's exactly what Biden did.
Yep. Amen. So let's walk this through. So first, they pretend to be outraged over police shooting, and then they tell us to just vote Just vote for the Democrat Party because that's how we will get this taken care of. The Democrats get in charge and they increase police funding, which leads to more police incidents, because it's always funny how they conveniently leave out the fact that majority of these police shootings and police incidents that have been occurring last year that sparked the protest that was happening in blue cities. So I see it as a racket. And on this show, we've been very critical of the AOC, the squad, and progressive Democrats. But I was very happy to see that Rashida Tlaib, she put herself out there. I'm gonna see if I can get this shared. Damn, this ain't taking a while. But I want to show the tweet that Rashida sent out, because she just straight out came out against abolition. Let me know if you guys can see this. I'm still getting used to using the sharing on here. Can you guys see this?
It's a little not centered. So if you scroll it to the right a little bit, maybe.
I'm not quite sure how I can do that. Once again, I'm still getting used to this. So can you see the tweet? Let me look on. I can't really. Oh, I see. So we got to change the grid. Sharing on this thing is pretty difficult. But the tweet from Rashida says, "It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Duante Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It cannot be reformed." And this is the talking point that the right wing have been waiting for a very long time, for someone on the left to come out. Because now they can say, oh, they will just for abolition. Now, my stance on this issue, my stance has always been, if you actually listen to actual police abolition and us at 10 demands, defund the police is a path to abolition. So I think Rashida could have worded this a little bit better, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, because no matter what she said, she would have been attacked. But the reason why I go after the liberal class is because if you look at the comments and quote tweets, obviously the fascists were going to attack her, right? But there was a lot of liberals and blue check Democrats who was joining the dog pile, joining the right wing talking points against Rashida Tlaib when she was discussing police abolition. And it's very funny because I was just reading some of the comments, and people, once again, just very, very, very misinformed stuff when it comes to defund the police. I heard one conservative that was like, well, if you defund the police, what are you guys going to do about serial killers? Like, I don't know, that was like a rehearsed line.
Right.
But I heard that multiple times. And that ignores the fact that serial killers become serial killers in the first place because the police force is inefficient at catching people before they rack up a body count, right? It's funny how...
Yeah, I mean...
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, I mean, to me, the core issue with defund the police that anyone who's not doesn't support it probably doesn't understand is that you're not saying we're not going to have police forces. We're not going to have, on some level, a militarized, group that can handle these difficult situations. What you're saying in the first phase, at least, is that there's a lot of stuff that the police forces do that can be offshored to groups that can handle it better, that aren't violent and racist. I mean, half these calls that policemen go on every day should be social worker calls of some sort instead of police calls.
Yes.
So a lot of defund the police. I mean, obviously, because you're a big part of 10, which I have a lot of respect for. But a lot of the funding should just shift to these other groups to handle these calls. So you don't have somebody likely to shoot someone on a situation that's a mental wellness call, or so many things. I mean, the police don't have to be involved in a lot of these things. And just the idea that under Biden, it's extra funding for police to train them. I mean, you're going to put up, it reminds me when was in business and you had these groups come in and do some consulting bullshit. And this group would come in and make a ton of money to do some consulting seminar. But it would just be bullshit. Everybody knew it was bullshit, and they walk away and they're like, yeah, whatever. That's what Biden's training with the cops program essentially comes down to. It looks like they do something. He's paying this big consulting group a whole bunch of money. So it doesn't shift it doesn't shift any of the burden away from the police, these other groups that should be handling these things. So kudos to Rashida for calling it out.
So my stance on this as a libertarian, I think you nailed it, Pat, because this is a very complicated issue with a lot of different theory out there. I hear abolitionists speak about this in different ways, but the core tenet is pretty much the same, where defund is a path to abolition. So that's why I kind of mentioned defund the police first, because it's a process. Because once you actually defund the police, we actually reallocate the resources to programs that actually reduce crime, like housing, like healthcare, education, lifting people out of poverty. I mean, these things are proven to reduce crime. So the path to abolition, which we talk about all the time in 10 Demand, is getting to a point where society does not need the police anymore. And that's a process. Me as a libertarian socialist, and how I kind of explain this topic is, my position is, I think the funding of how we allocate funds should be based on the community. And now you have a lot of rich white people who are terrified about, oh, I got all this property that I have to protect. My stance on this, and I don't know how a lot of abolitionists feel on this, I think if you have your area, your community, and if you want to have a fascist police force that pulls you over and harasses you and impose regressive fines on you and don't really does anything to make you more safe, I think if you're in a rich neighborhood and you want to do that, and you guys got massive support in the area, go for it. But keep that shit out of my neighborhood, and my taxpayer money better not fund that shit at all. Like, I don't want to see them in my neighborhood. Keep that shit to yourself. The reason why I bring that in, I want to bring Jackie in this very soon as well. And the reason why I say this is because even if you look at the issue of serial killers, with the conservatives we're talking about all the time, there's multiple examples of police incompetence that wouldn't happen if you have people that actually cared about the community investigating these incidents. For example, I mean, you had the police came in contact with the Zodiac killer before. Like, a lot of people don't realize that. And then they let him go because dispatch told them that they were looking for a black suspect. There was, I'm trying to remember the name. Fuck, I had on top of my head. But there was another serial killer in California who it was the Grim Sleeper in L.A. The Grim Sleeper in L.A., he got away with it for a very, very long time because he was targeting black sex workers. And he got away with it because the police was like, not a big deal for us. Now, if we had a situation where the community was in charge of policing themselves, you wouldn't have a community that's seeing their people being killed. Like, not a big deal, just sex workers. You know what I mean? So the whole idea is that we will actually be more taken care of and more safe if we have people that actually care about our community actually protecting each other, instead of just having a police force who can call it as it is. Sometimes they go after serial killers, sometimes they don't, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, so you need to get more community policing, even if you don't support defund. It's been proven that people from the community are going to be better members of the police force, and that the bottom line to me is that trust has been lost entirely with the police force in the community. They feel like an outside presence, like an army running the show in most communities. I mean, everybody's right to not trust the police. That's the thing that most people get who want to defund the police, is that, I've had a few instances where the police have come and they've failed. This isn't even on race, but they've just failed to do anything. I mean, I had video of a police officer. I mean, there was a hit and run in my alley where this woman in her car backed into what I assumed was her boyfriend having a domestic dispute, but the guy was on the ground. I tried to call him an ambulance because the guy had clearly a broken rib. But police, I had video of the car driving off. You would think that that's a crucial piece of information in this, should it come down to something. But they refused to ever look at the actual video I had on my phone. So I'm just talking about how useless they are in general.
Yes.
Like they're really not here to do much other than protect property. And then if you're part of the force that is there, that's racist, you have an agenda, which is bully people of color and be an asshole. I mean, you have permission. I don't mean an agenda, sorry, but you have permission within the force because there's so much rampant racism within it, and you have too much power. You can exercise your power in ways that are wrong. I mean, how many of these white shooters that have killed unarmed black men have gone to jail? Where's the justice here? So where's the example to these people that they're going to pay a price for it?
So I just got thrown off because I'm breaking this live. Yeah, anyone who knows my shows, you talk about hardcore politics, but sometimes I break away. Brianna Joy Gray wanted to invite me on, talk about police abolition. Actually, that's why I was like, "Whoa, what?" But anyway, back to the topic. I want to get Jackie on. Because I'm not trying to silence Jackie. Do you got anything you want to chime on before I move to the next segment of this story?
Nope.
All right, cool. So let me go to the next part. So we are at FHL, and a lot of people on the left, and a lot of Rose liberals, they are getting very upset at us criticizing progressives, Bernie Sanders, and the squad. And I am more than willing to give them props when they do something good. That's why I gave Rashida Tlaib props, because what she's doing, even though she's being attacked right now, she's effectively moving the Overton window. Even if you have people that are like, oh no, we can't do police abolition. I mean, we also I'm speaking on their behalf because a lot of people are not really well informed on this. They will say, oh, I don't support police abolition, but maybe we should defund the police. So even her just bringing up police abolition, that's a good thing because you are shifting the window. You're shifting what is acceptable discourse. Now, my criticism, at least I can only speak for myself. My criticism of Bernie, AOC, the squad is based on the inside-outside game, because a lot of people who advocate for supporting Democratic Party and taking over Democratic Party, they say we need an inside-outside game. And I am actually pretty sympathetic to the tenets of that idea. But what frustrates me and what pisses me off the most is people who are advocates of the inside-outside game strategy. They have no willingness to push people on the inside, because you need an effective inside in order for the strategy to work. The problem is we don't have an effective inside. I'm seeing Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad being massively disorganized right now. And while I say this, I'm gonna let people know I haven't checked Twitter or anything for the last hour or so. So if something broke now, I didn't see it. But why isn't AOC, the squad, Bernie, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, where are these people at? Because Rashida Tlaib right now is getting dogpiled on. Now, when you see messaging that come out of the Tea Party, when you see messaging that come out of the liberal class, what is something that is very similar amongst those? You see an organized, coordinated messaging program where they have a message, they stay on message, and they are ready to push back against anyone who pushes back against that. I mean, they have coordinated political campaigns. So my question is, why is AOC Bernie Squad? Why is there no organization when Rashida Tlaib come out with this police abolition messaging? Do they not agree with her, or are they disorganized? Because when you have something where you're challenging the status quo on this level, and we are creating a public debate, there has to be organization. You gotta have Bernie. Not even just Bernie, but Bernie, Jamal Bowman. Hell, you don't even have to be an elected official. Charles Bowman, the people that are in the inside. So they are in the inside. They need to come up together. Now, imagine if all of them was tweeting pro police abolition information out there right now. Because right now we see the liberal class or and the conservative class are attacking the. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had a little noise in the background. But the point is, we see these progressive members in Congress come together so they be ready to fight against the public campaign they are facing right now. And the reason why this is concerning, because is there not any organization that goes on? So does Rashida Tlaib just tweet stuff like this with no plan of attack? And that's problematic in itself, because there should be a plan for this stuff. Rashida says we need complete police abolition. Do you have progressives like come out with a storm, backing her up with information, calling out people who are attacking her. But there's none of that. So that's my criticism of Inside Game. What's your thoughts on like progressives and the organization level when it comes to challenging the establishment, Pat or Jackie? Anyone?
Get Jackie in here, but I got something to say. Oh, well, I mean, I agree with you. I'm a big advocate of the inside-outside strategy with more emphasis on the outside, like, you know, but they both work together one way or another to me. Like, you get the more people you have on the inside, the more mainstream you can make some of these ideas. People on the outside are pushing progressive stuff like defund the police. But the problem, obviously, is that there is no plan. In my opinion, they are not organized. They refuse to vote as a bloc. They've never threatened their power as a progressive bloc in Congress to prevent legislation from being passed. And so the question is, are they doing this to kowtow to Biden in the theory that their silence, you know, gets them some little bullshit committee jobs or things that they are they rationalizing it in the long run behind the scenes is what I worry about. Because they get some small concession that we don't know about. You know, that seems to be their strategy on a lot of these things. Whereas we didn't elect them for that purpose. We elected them to shine a light on what the shit's going on. We elected them to call things out and you know, don't worry about getting reelected. Balls to the wall, burn shit down, you know, expose what needs to be exposed in the party and fight for what's right. And if they did that, they should all know they will get tremendous funding and support online. I mean, anyone who backs all these progressive issues is going to they're going to be a hero to the left online and out fundraise anyone, anytime. So I don't understand either why they don't advocate stronger for the positions we believe in.
Jackie, before I move on.
I agree with you guys. I really get sick of seeing politicians tweet. I think AOC kind of set the precedent for that because when she first came in, she would tweet what was going on and she would like go live on Instagram and stuff and show what was actually happening. And I think there was like, I don't know, like a coalescing of the Democratic Party. Like basically like the old heads are like, okay, the kids are on this app, so we all have to be on this app. So now they think that the way to keep us on their side is to just constantly tweet to us, but that's actually pissing us off because we are well aware of the fact that they're the ones that can do something. And they're like, hey, how would $2,000 help you? It would help me a lot. You want to give it to me or you want to just keep tweeting to me about it? Like you're doing nothing and it's all performative bullshit.
Yeah, to Jackie's point though, like when AOC did come into office, one of the first things she did was share that the I forget the congressional orientation meeting for the new members was sponsored by all these oil companies and bullshit. And she exposed that right away. That was one of her first things that she did is she's like, you know, this is gross. I'm a new member in Congress and here I am at an orientation thing sponsored by all the things I was elected to fight. So, I mean, you know, what if we had more of that? You know, where'd that go?
That went away when Mama Bear pulled her to the side and was like, yeah, no more of this shit. Now she's turned into a straight up politician. When you ask her a question, she pivots or says a bunch of words that don't actually mean anything.
Like the Israel bullshit. That was pathetic.
Yep. And the funny thing is, and I like the point that Pat brought up, how AOC and the squad, they expected to get some sort of concessions on this. And the funny thing is, even the establishment is kind of shocked at how much they're willing to roll over. And we are seeing, I've seen multiple pot shots from the media, like, yo, we actually, where they call out the progressive politicians on how they are not getting anything. There was a story in The Hill, I think it was playing yesterday, where it was talking about, this is once again, we've seen Nancy Pelosi talking mad shit about AOC and the squad. And now this is despite everything that we are saying about them and their unwillingness to challenge the party, And there was an interview done with Pelosi where she was pretty much saying LC and the squad, they need to be team players. They can't do it on their own. And what Paige said, the person who interviewed Nancy Pelosi, is in the article, she said during when she answered this question, you can see that Nancy Pelosi was visibly angry when she was discussing AOC and the squad. And my question is, why are you upset? And my question for Pat, and I think it's very interesting, why doesn't she bring up Joe Manchin? Like, if you look at the article, she's talking about how they are not team players. But meanwhile, AOC and the squad, despite my thought process when it comes to why I supported them, I thought it was going to be the number one enemy of the Democrat establishment. But they were AOC, the squad, Bernie Sanders and them, they were the best thing that the Democratic Party could ever ask for. They're the best thing that ever happened to them. And they shepherded a massive amount of people who would be otherwise anti-establishment back in the Democratic Party. So where does Nancy Pelosi frustration come from? They're not doing anything to block bills. They are out openly apologizing for the Democratic Party and making them acceptable. So where's the frustration? I think it says a lot that she's attacking AOC and squad, but not Joe Manchin, who's actually tanking these programs, right, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the party loves Joe Manchin. Nancy Pelosi loves Joe Manchin. Joe Biden loves Joe Manchin. He's a scapegoat to not pass any legislation. And they're going to, Joe Manchin is one person in the Senate, and somehow this all falls on him like he has the power. Anything Joe Manchin can do, any other person in the Senate can do. There's no reason Bernie himself, and to his credit, Bernie did hold up legislation and get us, we might not have a single stimulus check if it wasn't for Bernie, to be honest with you. So, I mean, as much as Bernie, you can criticize him and I can criticize him, and it's fair to criticize him, but he executed that power, and the squad is cowardly, never going to, in my opinion. I mean, let's see, prove me wrong, but do they have the willpower and the guts to block legislation until it adds, it's more progressive? Will they do it? Like, the thing is, this year we have 2 bills, essentially. That's it, that can get passed through this Senate and House, because with the filibuster, you need 61 votes or 60 votes to pass any legislation, period. 61 votes in the Senate. Republicans are never going to vote for a single Democratic bill. So we have, for people that don't know, it's called budget reconciliation, and you can use that process twice this year. So we had 1 bill. The first was the stimulus package, or the relief bill, whatever you want to call it. And then we have 1 opportunity again this year to pass something. And that the second bill, what will the squad fight for? They didn't fight for 15 on the first bill. And if you're not fighting for $15 minimum wage, which is part of Joe Biden's platform, which was part of most Democrats' platform, which some of the people that voted no on it was on their platform. But if you're not going to hold up the legislation for that, what will you do?
So why do you say that it was part of Joe Biden's platform? Because Joe Biden's platform was nothing that's going to fundamentally change. And he held that up. He's been doing real good at that.
For sure. But they did say they were going to support the $15 minimum wage. So
I'm so sick of hearing about $15 because it's supposed to be 24. 15 is still not enough. Like $15 an hour is not shit in Los Angeles. It's already it's going to be $15, I think, in July. And it's like, congratulations, you can still have several roommates in order to afford to live.
Yeah, but see, this is where the squad and all the people on the progressive side really fucking suck at messaging. Back to next point. I mean, how many people know that the $15 minimum wage plan was a 5-year plan? That counters most people. Yeah. That counters most people's objections to it. The actual objections to it that had maybe some merit. I mean, it doesn't have merit, but that got traction with people was that, okay, we're in a small businesses are hurting. They pulled that argument out, like, because of COVID, we can't do this right away. It's not that we're against $15 minimum wage. It's just that, businesses are struggling in this moment. So immediately to that, the main counterpoint from all the progressives, they should have hammered that, look, this is 5 fucking years. We're not talking about now. It's ridiculous that they let that stand without countering that main argument against it.
Well, it's because they're not actually fighting for it. And also, I think Freakazoid said 15 should have been 10 years ago. And you're absolutely right, because the fight for 15 started when Obama was in office. And then we've had Trump, and now we've got Joe Biden, and we still can't even get that. We need to start fighting for 30 so that by the time we actually get it, that'll be what it should be.
This is why I don't understand the strategy from progressives, because I floated the I should say it's a theory because I don't have any hard evidence to back it up. But I floated the idea that AOC, Bernie, well, not Bernie, but AOC and the squad and a lot of these people, they are being advised by Democratic operatives. I talked to some people who organize with AOC on Twitter who know pretty much the inside game of how her campaign worked and how she kind of booted a lot of the anti-establishment socialists for more Democratic Party insiders. And I once again, I admit I don't got much to back this up, but I honestly think there are a lot of Democratic insiders that work for AOC who's in AOC's ear, who's just giving her bad advice on purpose, because it doesn't make any sense that they are so weak on the Biden administration and they're not willing to fight for any policies, because once again, even the establishment media is calling them out for this, because once again, in the Hill, you have them bring up this from the article that they released yesterday, how they said you had 92 members of the Progressive Caucus led by Pramila Jayapal has not been following the mode of the conservative House Freedom Caucus. That far-right group was notorious for banding together to derail spending bills and even a GOP measure to repeal Obamacare while Republicans led the chamber. In fact, House Democrats passed majority of their agenda last year with relatively few defections, despite having a much larger majority. And then they bring up how, if you look at the people who oppose the Democratic agenda, all centrists and moderates. And they even point out here how Democrats passed the final COVID-19 relief package last month that has been amended by state Senate moderates. They said for all the griping from progressives like AOC about the changes, they only have one defection, a centrist. So this is not even the left being unreasonable. These are objective. Well, I won't say objective. They are establishment moles. But even people who are playing within their game, even they are acknowledging that you guys don't know what you guys do. You guys don't know what you're doing. You guys not getting any concessions for anything. So they're being called out even by the establishment. That's why we're seeing a lot of people in the Democratic insider starting to warm to AOC, the squad. You even seen people like Bakari Sellers who give shout outs to Nina Turner. Once again, I don't think that's a reason to attack Nina Turner. I've seen people attack her for that, but I don't think that's fair. I don't know what you guys thoughts on that. I don't think it's fair to attack her just because someone like her. But I think it speaks volume because I think that shows that the Democratic Party insiders are not afraid of progressives anymore because they realize, oh, they apologize for us. That's why I see it, right?
I mean, initially, there were all these articles being put out after Joe Biden won, like 2-3 months after he won, about how pleased progressives are with Joe Biden and how there's no beef with Biden, essentially. Like it was set up to be, there'd be this war with progressives against him, and there isn't. And when I read those articles, I'm like, oh, this is propaganda, because we're obviously fighting Biden hard because he's bullshit. We know this, but looking back, I'm like, you know what? Those articles are based on some truth, because we're talking about these people within the media that have access to the progressives. And I feel like the progressives think they're getting concessions behind the scene. I think they actually feel like that his campaign is more progressive than they thought, and they're good with it. And that's a real fear, because I mean, if this is progressive, they're ignoring all the handouts. Like maybe maybe some people like AOC don't know the history as well as other people. Like I assume that they're progressive as I am, so that they know, the history of a lot of this stuff. And, if you look at, the problem we had with Obama is that Obama came in and his whole cabinet was appointed by the banks. If you look at Biden's administration, most of Biden's administration is the same folks. He appointed people to handle the recovery effort, the relief bills and stuff like that, who like Ron Klain. These people were part of extracting wealth from the middle class and giving it to their donors. They took advantage. They under Obama took advantage of the situation and made poor people poorer, and middle class, they made the middle class shrink. So coming from that perspective, which I have a feeling AOC doesn't even come from, I don't feel like she understands that lesson as well as she should, to not trust these people in a lot of ways. You have to look at the appointments and who they are. And I'm not seeing the pushback that we need. And I worry that behind the scenes, they actually are sort of content and thinking that they are winning some of these fights.
Yeah, and that's you bring up a good point, because I think that's part of the insider game that is putting the progressives in the House to sleep. Because there was even that story that came out that was, I don't know what their response to this was when they saw it, but if it was anything other than massive shame, they're not fighting for us, because the story was how the Biden administration is winning over progressives because they're liking and retweeting their stuff on Twitter. How they getting pretty much passed on the shoulder. So they're like, we are being listened to by the Democratic establishment now. And like you said, I think there are Democratic Party insiders that are talking to them like, if you guys really want to be, once again, I take the stance that I think they are doing what they the best thing, but they've been corrupted by the Democratic Party. So they have DNC consultants that, hey man, I know you want to make change, but the reality of Washington is, if you just play ball, we want to make change for you. We want to operate with you. They say that with no intentions of working with them. They say that just to placate them.
I don't for a second think that these, I don't like the sellout arguments. I mean, it depends on how you define sellout, but I think it does come down to they're trying, and they think they've been convinced, like you said, by consultants and people in their circles, that the way to get things done through this system is to work with it in a way that we don't agree with on the outside, and that's the struggle. Is like, like when AOC had her stuff about violence against her from tweeting and all that nonsense. It's like, we want her to rally the people on the outside to act to support what she's going to force inside. And she tries that at times, but if you took all the squad folks and had them rally around an issue like the shooting yesterday or 2 days ago, and called for some action, if they all called for some action and recognize that they've got 100 million people that would get in the streets if they all were on the same page about something, that would make all the difference in the world on any issue.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much a good way to summarize it, because I know you say you don't like saying that, using the sellout angle. My thing is, I never like to tone police anyone. Like, whatever, they're politicians, they can handle it. AOC makes $170,000 a year and had the best healthcare plan in the world. So I think some people calling her a sellout, I think she would be okay. Well, I hear what you're saying though, because I personally don't like calling them sellouts, because I think when I have my game of politics is trying to win people over. And if you have someone who's still in the hero worship part of AOC, I think you just saying, "Oh, AOC is a sellout. AOC is a sellout," without having any sort of tact, that's not really being effective as a communicator. So I explain the human aspect of what I was just talking about. Well, I think they're trying to do what they think is best. And I explained this on the show before, how there's just basic human corruption. When I say corruption, I'm not talking about like you're Joe Manchin. I'm talking about the fact that you rub elbows with William Lancey Clay, and that made you less likely to endorse Cori Bush over him. Like, this is not like super malicious corruption. I mean, this you literally getting to know your colleagues. So since you know your colleagues, you're more likely to take it easy on them. The same way Bernie Sanders took it easy on Joe Biden, because I legitimately believe that Bernie Sanders thinks Joe Biden's a nice guy. We know that that's not the fact, because you see how he talked to protesters and people who challenge him. But I think, honestly, if Joe Biden is talking to someone he deems an equal, like a senator or someone who's a millionaire, there's no doubt in my mind that Joe Biden probably a really, really great guy if he's talking to someone he deems as equal. So he's been around Bernie Sanders for decades, and hey, Bernie, how you doing, man? You doing? How the kids doing? You want to take? Let's have some lunch, man. Like, I bet he's a good guy. So that's another way you get corrupted. But sorry, what would you about to say earlier, Pat? Before I cut you off, my bad, man.
Oh, no, not at all. Because I agree with everything you just said. No, it was about the sellout stuff. So yeah. So I agree with you on that too. Like, the one thing I never do is ever try to pick fights with people that have less trust in any of these politicians than me. Like, that is not an invalid position to have. That is, and even if that position is wrong, which, you know, I kind of think sometimes, I mean, I think they get too hard of a beating like that. It's not accurate, but my view is at worst that puts pressure on them to represent us and prove who they are. I mean, I would rather err on the side of riding their asses than trusting the plan, which what is the fucking plan? Like, so I don't have any problem with people that are hard on AOC and the squad. I mean, I really don't.
Anything you want to add here, Jackie, before I move on?
Nah, I agree with you guys.
Yeah. So once again,
basically just be saying the same thing you guys did.
Yeah. So my thing is, like, once again, I don't tone police anyone when it comes to politicians. They'd be okay. It's just my job as a communicator. Even when I was canvassing, I'm always cognizant of the audience I'm talking to. And once again, even if you think AOC is a sellout, my only thing I always tell people, if you're talking to someone who you legitimately want to win over, and you know that they like AOC, I don't think just leading out with AOC is a sellout is a good idea. Me personally, I'm all about winning, and maybe one thing, you just know your audience, because maybe there's some people that can appeal to. But if you know someone's AOC stand, you want to convince them that they're not doing the right thing, I don't think going that hard is the right way of doing it. But once again, I'm not here to tone police. It's just my personal strategy. My thing is with, and this is another reason why the squad is good for the Democrat Party. And this be my last take on this before we move on to another topic, is that they do a really good job at keeping the Overton window in a proper position for the Democrat Party. What do I mean by that? I mean, they willing to come out in support of policies that are massively popular, which is a good thing. Medicare for all, canceling student loan debt. And this is the point I made earlier on Twitter. AOC, Bernie, and the squad, they can choose what is acceptable dialogue when it comes to the left because of their influence. And the best example I have is by AOC not standing up for Julian Assange, AOC not saying anything about the Syria bombings, AOC and Bernie and the Sanders and the squad not bringing up the fact that Joe Biden backed away from the public option. By them doing that, I don't know if they even realized it, but they are literally saying that that's okay. The best example of Julian Assange. Like, why do you don't see people talk about Julian Assange that much? Because Bernie and AOC doesn't. So Bernie and AOC gave the impression that the issue of Julian Assange is not as important as it is by not speaking about it. So that's how they help control the Overton window for the Democrat Party, which is why I give Rashida Tlaib all the props in the world for coming out for police abolition, because her coming out for police abolition, even though she's taking a hit, that opens the Overton window up.
No, and I agree. I think so. So all the squad and Bernie, they pushed the Overton window left on issues like Medicare for all. You know, their campaigns did, at least. You know, they got our mindset way over there on the left, thinking we should get Medicare for all. But conceding and not still fighting for that when we're in a pandemic, I mean, it should be balls to the wall about Medicare for all. And then if you don't get Medicare for all, at least you get a shitty public option. But here we are in a place where they're backing away from the public option. All they're doing is expanding COBRA to which is a handout to the insurance companies, and it's a terrible system. So why aren't they hammering daily all the people to the public, all the people that are going to have long-term COVID, all the people that are going to have huge medical bills from COVID, and how unsustainable the system is? They should be lobbying for something on the next relief bill, on the next budget reconciliation bill. And, I know they got to work with what they've got, but how are you not fighting for that now before this bill comes up?
Well said. So I'm gonna shift gears here. Let's see. Anyone got anything else you want to add on that topic before we shift subject here? Jackie, anything you want to finish on that segment?
Just the same thing that I said before. Like somebody else mentioned it in the comments that now the squad isn't there to be progressive or to push the Overton window to the left. The squad is there to be a funnel for people who are anti-establishment into the Democratic Party. So they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. We as progressives who want policy change are like, why are they doing it? Because they're doing what they're supposed to do. They were never gonna fight for us. That's why I've given up electoral politics.
See, I don't personally think that they aren't. I don't think they're strategically doing that on behalf of the Democratic Party per se. I just think they're not using their power like I would like them to, and the effect is what you're saying. The effect is they're giving people who want to not believe in the establishment some avenue to believe in the establishment. But I don't think that's a malicious evil plot, is I guess how I look at it. I look at it as like they're not doing things in the way we want. They're not lobbying the public against some people in the party. They're not calling people in their own party out by name. They're not saying it's corrupt that we don't have Medicare for all. They're saying, wouldn't it be nice if we had Medicare for all?
I think you have way more faith in people than I do. I think I don't think it's like an evil, malicious plan. I definitely think that is the Democratic Party's plan. And I think some of the people are doing that intentionally. Some of them may think that they're doing help, not realizing that this is exactly what they're doing. So I don't think it's like a black and white, like this is the evil plan and there's somebody, twirling their mustache in the background. But I do think some of them know what they're doing. Like Pelosi. As far as like specifically AOC, I think she just kind of fell into it and now she's here and she can't get out. And so I don't think that she like signed on to be a full-fledged member of the establishment, but that's where she finds herself. And now she's kind of trapped. That's what I think. Yep. So I don't think like she's a bad person. I don't think it was malicious. I think she just kind of fell into a hole and now she's there and she can't get out. But as far as we are seeing her at this point, she may as well just be any other Democrat.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't care if people are hard as hell on her. Like, go pressure her.
No, but I do blame her for starting the whole tweet thing because she is the one who started that, and then all the congressmen were like, "Oh, well, she's the most popular congressperson, so maybe we should all tweet." And I just really, really hate that. Stop fucking tweeting.
Me crazy. It drives me crazy. I mean, it's poverty porn. Go ahead, Pat.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good. You good.
I've been talking a lot.
No, you good, brother.
But
go ahead.
But along those lines, like here's where I really take issue with a lot of the stuff they tweet about. I mean, and it's exactly what you guys are saying. It's not any different. But knowing that we only have 2 bills that could possibly pass this year, because of the budget reconciliation process, and that they haven't killed the filibuster. When I see them all just doing these empty tweets about stuff we should have, I don't know, you pick the issue, but knowing that it won't be something in the next budget reconciliation bill, the tweets anger me because I know there's no way it can be in this bill that can be passed next. So what are you saying to people when you say people need monthly stimulus checks? Okay, how we've got two bills. One, you didn't even fight for $15 an hour. How in the fuck are you going to convince people to include that in the next bill? Because the only way you have a chance of passing anything is if all it requires is all the Democrats. You could never get 10 Republicans on board for any legislation. So they're openly lying to people in a lot of ways when they fight for these things without a plan.
Yes. So this is, since we're on topic, this is what Bernie tweeted out 2 hours ago because I got really upset. And this is not, I'm trying to find the other tweet because I literally replied to him twice because it's the same shit. This tweet he sent 2 hours ago. He said, "Have you or a loved one ever delayed seeing a dentist because of the cost?" What do you think, Bernie?
I haven't gone to the dentist. I just chipped a tooth.
I don't know when last time.
I didn't chip it, but I was eating and it just kind of part of it fell off. I still haven't gone to the dentist because I looked it up online and it's to get that fixed is $800, the cheapest. I haven't gone to the dentist in a long time. I still have my wisdom teeth.
I had dental insurance when I used to sell cars for Toyota. And I went to the dentist. I was like, oh shit, I got dental health insurance for the first time. Went to the dentist, they did a checkup. The checkup was covered, but then the dentist came back and told me all the things that need to be done. This is part of my radicalization process. I talk about my years of me selling cars is when I really, really got radicalized. I've always been anti-establishment from the Iraq War. Growing up, but dude, actually becoming an adult and working that took me to the next level. And I remember I was like, oh yeah, I finally get my everything handled with my teeth. And they came back and oh, we need to do this, and this, and you gotta pay this amount. And it was it was years ago, so my memory not perfect, but it was $800, $900 that I would have to pay out of pocket. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, hey guys, you know that I have insurance, right? And I put my insurance. They're like, oh yeah, that's the deductible. The insurance already covered the rest. I'm like, so this is not even usable. I didn't know way I can afford to pay $800, $900 up front studies shows that vast majority of Americans can't even come up with a $400 bill. Yeah, I'm supposed to be able to come up with $800, $900 as a deductible for a plan that apparently is always supposed to be paid for. Insurance is a scam. It's a fucking scam. And that's why when Bernie come out with these tweets, and my response to his tweet, I'm not gonna pull up on the screen, but I'll just say, is this gonna change anytime soon? If not, then what's the point of tweeting this than pure poverty porn? Because he's talking about health insurance in this tweet where he's talking about, have you ever been to a dentist or anything like that? But Joe Biden backed off the public option, and you haven't said fucking shit about it. So it's one thing if you tweet this, but you're fighting like hell to get this done, and there's a respect I can have. All right, you're fighting, but you failed. But when Joe Biden backs away for your public option, and you said about a few weeks after Biden, I think a few weeks before, where he said, yeah, we're going to go along with Biden on healthcare. So he lied about what he was already saying, which is already a compromise of a compromise. You're not fighting him on that. Instead, you're tweeting, oh, how are you suffering on this current healthcare system that we're going to continue? That, to me, this is just insulting. I'm glad that a lot of people are starting to see it that way.
I agree 100%. And if the squad wanted to, for the next relief bill or the next infrastructure bill / green jobs, whatever, the one that's going to go through reconciliation, the only bill that can pass this year, because you're not going to get Republican support on the bill. So you're going to use it. You're going to use reconciliation because that's the only way. So if the squad brought attention to Medicare for all, demanded Medicare for all, demanded something, they could get us the public option in the next bill. Now, I'm not saying they could get us Medicare for all in the next bill, but they could get Biden to stand up and do what he said he was going to do. I mean, maybe, but how are you not going to try? How are you not making the argument that you should do what you said you would do when you're running for office? I mean, and the pandemic is 1,000 times worse than when it first launched. And when the pandemic, when candidate Kamala Harris was running and the pandemic had just started, she was lobbying for $2,000 monthly checks then. And we had no idea how bad this would be. So none of this stuff is being used against them. But it's clear you can leverage the pandemic and the exposing how bad our medical system is, and also how good, in a sense, it is that everybody can just go get the damn pandemic shot. You can. This is the opportunity to sell like hell for Medicare for all, which includes dental coverage. Speaking of what he's talking about, but the squad needs to go out there and say, we are not going to vote for this next package period unless X, and then take a compromise at the end of the day. But have they done that? Have they said there's an issue or things that we need, or we're not going to vote for this bill? Have they ever done that and said, this bill must include this, or us 8 people won't pass this bill?
No, we absolutely could do, because it gets me how there are 5, 8, however many of them members of the squad now, and they're like, well, we're powerless, we can't even do anything. But then Joe Manchin, one dude, is like, no, and they're like, oh, I guess we can't do it. What? So the 5 or 8, however the fuck many of you there are, have no power whatsoever, despite having the exact same position that this one fucker has, who says no. Yeah, in fairness,
performative. They're in the House, and one vote in the Senate is different, than 6 or 7 in the House, but they still have enough people to effectively be maybe 1 or 2 Joe Manchins in the House.
I get that they're in the House, but my point is, they're not trying at all. For example, okay, so Bernie is the foil to Manchin. But the problem is, when Bernie stands up, he stands alone almost every time. Last year during the first stimulus package negotiations, when he wanted to add the $600 to unemployment, he was literally the only senator there. And the only reason he got it through was because he shamed every single senator against it. He was like, oh, sure, you won't raise the minimum wage, you won't give them health care, and now you don't want them to be able to pay their bills when they can't go to work? That's the only reason we got that. And Joe Manchin can pretty much do the same thing. He can pretty much say no. And the Democrats basically just use Joe Manchin as their kind of like their scapegoat from within the party. Their ultimate scapegoat is always going to be the Republican Party or Russia or China. They have built-in scapegoats. They always do. But the truth is, they're not going to try. They don't want to try, because the backers, not for the squad, because we know the squad doesn't take, they don't take tainted money, but literally the DNC does, and everybody else in the Democratic Party does. So those are the people who are saying, no, we're not going to raise the minimum wage. No, we're not going to get rid of insurance companies or give people anything, because the insurance companies are the ones who are giving us money. So we're not actually going to do anything. So just make people think we're doing things, and we're just going to do nothing.
Well, yeah, and they also, as we saw with the parliamentarian, they manipulate process and use the process in itself as a way to not pass policy. So an example on that,
which is total horseshit.
That was a reason
go what's out of them.
Yeah, that was a reason for saying they couldn't include it in this bill. But meanwhile, Joe Biden didn't even contact Manchin and try to argue with Manchin to get his support. He didn't even make a phone call to Manchin during that process about the minimum wage. But on the process side, another thing, they're really good at manipulating it. So the House passed the stimulus bill with the $15 minimum wage included, right, initially. And then it went to the Senate, and then it came back from the Senate without the $15 minimum wage, right? So they ran the clock out on that whole thing intentionally to keep, the squad. If the squad hung up that bill, what would happen is the unemployment insurance extension would have expired. So Democrats manipulated the whole timeline on the thing to prevent people in the House from fighting the bill when it came back to get it back included. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't have still done that. And it's on the squad and those people to make that argument to the public that, this is what's happening. The Senate is holding this up, so we're not going to have time to get $15 minimum wage back in the bill. But that's where the squad, we keep calling on them to put a light on what's going on within the party, and they're not doing it. They're not calling out the bad actors by name.
So I think unless you have anything you want to add on, Jackie, I can switch topics real quick. Anything you want to say before we switch topics and move on to the next thing?
No.
All right, sounds good. I don't want to. This doesn't have to be a long segment. I just want to talk about this guy I thought is breaking. I discuss foreign policy all the time. That's kind of what I do. Let me drink my energy drink real quick.
Oh, so it's a drinking segment? Nobody told me it was time for a break.
So the big story that came out today. This is breaking news. I kind of just want to get you guys' reaction, and I can share my thoughts on this because I have much to say on this. The reports are that Biden to announce withdrawal of the U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th. So apparently we're supposed to be. Let me share my screen here because I know I'm breaking this to you guys last second here, but I want to share my thoughts on this.
And I'm going to listen, but I got to turn my camera off for a quick second.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'll have
protest. I'm going to protest. Pat turned off his camera. I'm protesting. Just kidding.
So is this sharing? I can the thing about Haps, I can never I can't see what you guys see. I can only just have my screen. So is it working? Can you see that, Jackie?
We can see what we see. You just have to wait about 30 seconds from the time that you do something for it to pop up.
Okay. The only thing is I can't see it when I'm sharing it, so I have no idea how it looks on our screen. So anyway, the news story that came out.
It's up there now.
Okay, Biden to announce withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th. And obviously the first reaction of this is obviously this is a good thing, right? And I hope that this follows through. But no one, and I mean no one, should be praising Joe Biden until every fucking troop is out of Afghanistan. Oh, I can see what you guys are probably saying now. Oh, Nick, you're just being a hard ass. You just refuse to praise Joe Biden, which I guess that's fair. I admit openly I have a very strong hatred for Joe Biden based on the way he destroyed the black community over the last 40 years. But this headline is very familiar to me. It reminds me of this tweet that Joe Biden put out. This is October 11th, 2012. The vice president, which is Joe Biden, on Afghanistan. We will leave in 2014. Now, this is not me just being a skeptical piece of shit who's just avoiding praising Joe Biden, because if you actually look at the details of this, and this is why I kind of want to share this as well. The Taliban is very, very upset that Joe Biden broke the promise the Trump administration made that they're going to pull out by May 1st. Now, this is only my theory. I predicted that Joe Biden will continue the genocide in Yemen. I predicted that he was going to be weak on the Iran deal, which he has. So I'm telling you guys my mindset when I come to predicting these things. Because there was a story that Taliban said after May 1st, they are going to ramp up attacks because the United States violated their end of the deal. And what they said is, how can we trust America moving forward when they constantly keep lying about when they're going to get out of the country? That's the United States arguing in bad faith. So this is my prediction. We see this come true because I don't really have that much to add to this story because I don't know what people want me to say. Oh, Joe Biden getting us out of Afghanistan, even though he didn't do it yet. I just like Ken Klippenstein say, I believe it when I see it. So this is what I think is going to happen. They say they're going to get out of Afghanistan. He put the September 11th date. He's going to get good media headlines. He's going to tame the left temporarily, which is the reason why he's doing this. And then the Taliban will be upset because he lied about pulling out on May 1st. So then the Taliban would launch attacks like they said they would. And then Joe Biden and the United States empire can say, hey, this region is clearly not stable. The Taliban is still out of control. So even though we said we were going to get out by September 11th, we got to stay because the Taliban is really upset. Violence is still not going down, and we got to do the responsible thing to come in. once again, I'm willing to eat my words if I'm wrong on this, but I think this is the clear direction because I saw that story about the Taliban being upset that the United States is not withdrawing by May 1st. So I really think the U.S. empire, they did this because they know that the Taliban or any the violence is going to escalate in the region, and they're going to use that excuse to not pull out. That's my guess, and we see if I'm right. Do you guys? Once again, I didn't want to stay on this topic too long. They're just breaking news. Pat, do you got anything you want to add on to the rumor that Biden's going to pull out of Afghanistan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with your general assessment that, we're likely to stay there. But even if the rumor is true, what people have to understand about it is most of the violence and bombing and all the destruction happening and basically the war with us in Afghanistan is done by drones.
Yeah.
So even the withdrawal of forces physically from Afghanistan, what they do is they set up military sites in nearby countries and just drone the shit out of them. So it's kind of irrelevant in a sense to the war itself. I mean, if you're going to say we're not going to have physical conflicts with Afghanistan, that's a different argument than we're going to pull out the troops, because you can keep up all the fighting still from a nearby country with drones.
Well said. So this is resistance hero Bill Kristol. It's gonna pop up in the screen. I think Jackie said it take like 30 seconds. This is a guy that resists Twitter and the Democratic Party have been in love with because he took the path of least resistance. He took the obvious political calculation. He was like, I don't like Trump. The very bare minimum turned this guy into a hero. Meanwhile, everyone on the left hated Bill Kristol, at least anyone who actually a real leftist. And we was calling out resist Twitter for embracing this motherfucker because he's complicit with some of the worst crimes against humanity that the U.S. empire has implemented. And now look where he is right now. He is now upset that we are allegedly getting out of Afghanistan. And I could easily do like a 30-minute segment going through this Afghanistan trending tab and picking apart all the bullshit that's coming out from them. But I just want to highlight Bill Kristol because I want people to understand what a bad faith actor he is. He said it's been a difficult and frustrating war, but preventing terror attacks in Afghanistan and preventing a Taliban takeover have, I think, been worth it. It continues to be worth it while withdrawal and risk Kabul from falling and all that might follow from that. Now, anyone who understands the U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East can immediately point out what's wrong with this tweet. Because he said, preventing terror attacks from Afghanistan. Let me point out to you, Bill Kristol, none of the people who attacked the United States in 9/11 was from Afghanistan. We literally will always come up with a reason to stay in Afghanistan. Because the reason people like Bill Kristol say we should stay when the violence is low, they say, oh, the violence is low. This is proof that U.S. foreign policy is working in the region. And then when violence goes up, they say, well, violence is spiking. It's out of control. This is why we need to stay in the region. And one thing I want to leave you guys with this question as we wrap the segment up and I give you guys final thoughts, Pat and Jackie. If you ask Bill Kristol and any of these pro-Afghanistan war hawks what their win condition is in Afghanistan, they don't have an answer. Like, what is your, like, if you are arguing for staying in Afghanistan, the onus is on you, not the other way around. You need to lay out your plan of action, when we're going to get out, how we accomplish that. But there was a story from the Washington Post that I reported on multiple times on my channel and how they did an investigation into the Afghanistan war, and public officials was lying about the status of the war over the course of like 10 years, including the Barack Obama administration as well. So you had generals that were saying when they did this investigation, and once again, this comes from the Washington Post, by the way, guys. They were talking to military generals that were like, we have no idea how we're gonna win this. They didn't know who they were fighting because the situation is not as easy as, people wearing red uniforms over here and you got people who wearing blue uniforms over here. The people who wearing the red uniforms we're against. No, they have no idea who we're fighting. Like I want people to the United States government, as reported in the Washington Post, the reason why there's so many civilian casualties is because they have no idea who they're fighting. And then they cover up. This is what the Trump administration did. This is why I don't understand why people pretend that Trump is like anti-war. They was fighting against provisions. They made it so where if there's anyone who was killed in Afghanistan, which Donald Trump ramped up drone strikes at, by the way, they was like, if it's a young man in his early 20s, they would just label him a hostile enemy combatant. So they was doing stuff like this, so you couldn't really understand the amount of civilians that they are killing. So the numbers that we have now, that as bad they are corrupted because, once again, there's no one holding our government accountable. So they are actively lying about the amount of civilians we kill. And we still, if you look at the civilians on record, it's still insane. So, once again, ask anyone about Afghanistan, they have no win condition. Anything you guys also want to chime in for? I'll do this last story and we can wrap it up. Or actually, I want to take questions. I'm gonna do one more story and then we can see if we have any questions. We can wrap up from there. But anything else you guys want to add on Afghanistan?
Not Afghanistan specifically, but I just want to mention that I was watching, I believe it was CNN the other day, and they did a story on an article written about how the media itself is being soft on Biden. That was the article written, and that they should be. And then CNN ran with it and was like, they had two pundits on saying how it's a good thing that we should all come together and give Biden a pass because we just came out of fascism. And that's literally the media doing that, saying the media should be soft. It was really a gross thing. And I'm sorry I didn't share and make more of it, but I need to look into that because it was disgusting. Anyway.
RJ has a question. And it's specifically for Pat. He wants to know what made him so awesome and interesting that you decided to follow him on Twitter.
RJ. The hair. Mostly the hair.
The hair.
It's a very powerful haircut. I'm very jealous. I'm not going to lie. I'll quickly scan and see if there's any other questions. Other than that, I'm ready to move on. Let me ask you this, Pat. This is from Unapologetic Kami on the YouTube side. Are Dems in trouble in the 2022 midterms? I'll let you answer that first, and then me and Jack can chime in. What's your thoughts and prediction on 2020 thus far?
I mean, they are in trouble in 2022. I mean, it's a coin flip is the thing. Look, the party not in power usually wins back seats in the midterms. And so ignoring that reality would be stupid. That's how it works. On the other hand, the country's apathetic in a lot of ways to politics. At least with Biden, some stuff has calmed down to Joe Democrat, average Democrat, so I kind of think you're going to have a low turnout in the midterms. You're not going to have any evil person on the other side to both parties. I think it's kind of a wash. I don't know, but Democrats could, if they wanted to right now, secure the party and the country and leadership for fucking decade. I mean, we just came out of the grossest administration ever. You just got to get out there, push for super progressive policy, give people things they need. It's a pandemic. We came from with COVID to potentially getting out of that situation, and there'll be an economic boom in theory, if you do things right, and they're blowing it. So I don't know. I mean, the safe answer is I don't fucking know. I don't think anyone knows right now. I think a lot of it has to do with how things are perceived 6 months from now from Biden's COVID response. 6 months from now, a lot of people are going to be getting $20,000 bills for COVID bullshit. That's not going to make people happy. 6 months from now, people are going to be saying that you didn't even cancel $10,000 of my student debt. What the fuck? You said you're going to do that. Where's the medical where's the single payer option, or what's the bullshit he was going for? Not single payer, but public option. Where's the public option? So I mean, he's going to have a lot of things that people are going to be upset about in 6 months if they do things wrong. So you got to reassess it then, in my opinion.
Right. So okay, you want to go, Jackie?
They're gonna. Well, there's
go
only
last.
one. There's one way that they could possibly gain any kind of support, and that's if Biden is no longer president in 6 months, which is highly possible.
So I went back and forth on 2022, and right now, as it shapes up, my prediction for 2022 is very similar to my position before the general election. Now, when it first started, I'm thinking like, yeah, Trump Republicans can easily steamroll Biden if they run a good campaign. And I said it before, if you had Donald Trump who did the bare minimum in terms of handling COVID, like providing healthcare to your people, providing stimulus checks for Americans on a monthly basis, and people are like, oh, well, conservatives no go for that. You're being extremely short-sighted. Trump is a cult leader. A cult leader. If Trump was selling the idea that we could have stimulus check, he can say it's the Trump economic recovery program. You know how fast he would get those redneck people who worship Trump on board for that? If Trump was like, oh, we in a pandemic, I care about my people. I refuse to let people die. I'm going to implement Trump care, make sure everyone's taken care of. There is no doubt in my mind, even though Republican officials may be kicking and screaming, there's no doubt that Republican voters are like, yeah, Trump is taking care of us. Hell yeah, Donald Trump, he actually cares about us. Now, if Trump did that, he would have dominated Joe Biden. Like just the healthcare and just the monthly checks. Because people would not giving a fuck about what he says on Twitter, about his uncouth behavior, if they got money during this pandemic and was taken care of. There's no way they would give a fuck about that. But what happened instead?
I agree.
They ran on culture war. Go ahead.
Yep. No. I just want to add that I
agree.
No,
go ahead. You good.
If Trump had ran at the end on, and not ran on it, you can't run on it if you're Trump, but if he had given people $2,000 stimulus checks, flat out insisted, made it happen, if he'd gotten the Republican Senate on board, he wins.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why, and once again, he can easily sell those things because people just see politics as stagnant. Right now, we are seeing the rejection of the Reagan era, where they do what they can that not mainstream public opinion, but people are tired of trickle down economic bullshit. So I honestly think that Trump, he could easily sold that to his people, and they would have been on board for that, and he would have been massively popular by public. If you don't believe me, do you guys remember when Trump bucks was a thing when the first stimulus came out? And I was literally banging my head against the table because anyone who's a lefty was like, "You guys are celebrating crumbs," but people loved Trump bucks, and it became a meme. Imagine if Trump bucks happened every month. Every month, Trump bucks would trend because Donald Trump, despite Nancy Pelosi and Democrats not liking it, man, Donald Trump would sign his name at the bottom of the goddamn checks. They came out every month. Black Twitter would not have given a fuck about anything Trump said, because I remember Black Twitter, once again, I was going crazy because I hated how the United States handled the COVID relief programs. But Black Twitter loved it. Like, yeah, Trump bucks all day. Hell yeah. Imagine that every month. I think he could have won. So now I win that tangent for a reason, because this goes back to 2022. Logically, if you look at everything that Joe Biden is doing and how it will affect people, the conclusion that me and leftists can come to that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is going to get washed because they betrayed so many campaign promises. In the most blatant fucking way. Now Joe Biden using the same pro police brutality rhetoric where you just blame looters and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of the same stuff coming out for Joe Biden that came out with Trump. So you would think Joe Biden would be very vulnerable in this situation. But once again, you have Republicans who are probably running the dumbest anti-Biden campaigns I've ever seen in my life. So now they're assessing over cancel culture, Dr. Seuss. Like they were like, if you look at all Biden's broken promises, the Republicans are not attacking him on it. There's no substantive attacks of what Biden is doing. They are 100% embracing the culture war. So this is where my prediction for 22 come in. If there was any sort of competent opposition to Biden, they will lose by a landslide. Biden and the administration will lose by a landslide. But you have Republicans who will play this stupid culture war shit. They probably put Donald Trump in front, who fucking independents despise. You probably have Matt Gaetz, Ted Cruz out in the front campaigning against Biden, who once again the American people despise. So as it is right now, I got it as a toss-up because the Democratic Party, I know that kind of a bitch out, but it's a race to the bottom. The Democrats are obsessed with disappointing people. Meanwhile, the Republicans are so incompetent they can't even attack Joe Biden on what will hurt his base the most. So you have super stupid culture war issue stuff on one side. You have Democrat Party who is refusing to listen to the vote on the other side. So what gives? What would give? Maybe the Republicans may be able to do really well in 2022 because once again you got a lot of dumb Trump supporters who just vote R no matter what. I mean, maybe Joe Biden, his horrible administration will ruin grassroots enthusiasm, maybe less people willing to come out and support the Democrats while Republicans willing it, and Republicans may do well there. But as it is right now, I just see I just see two parties to race to the bottom, which makes it hard to predict what's going to happen right now. But so I won't completely weasel out of the question. I think it's mostly gonna be as it is right now. I think it's mostly gonna be a wash. You're not gonna see any giant gains, any giant losses, just because both parties are completely shit right now. But you guys will see me update that projection as it get close. But that's where I'm standing right now. Do you see any other questions, Jackie? Before I go on my last topic?
Okay. So a couple of people were curious as to what I meant by unless Kamala comes in, they're like, is she gonna do anything? No. But like you guys said, when like during a midterm, whoever's in power tends to lose seats. They're going to lose a lot. I disagree. I don't think it's going to be a wash. The Republicans are going to gain ground unless Kamala Harris usurps the throne by then. What I mean by that is she will be seen as, it will no longer be seen as the Biden administration. They're going to pivot hard towards, oh, well, Kamala will do better. And they're going to like triple down on identity politics and try to get as many people out to vote for the Black Asian woman who is now president, who's going to fix everything. That's what I mean. So I don't mean she's actually going to do anything. I mean, like they're going to use that opportunity to try to get more power.
To me, the right would love that though. Like that would actually fuel their base if Kamala took over, before then. So I always saw, like, I think it's inevitable that Biden is not on the ticket in 2024. But to me, it makes sense just at some point past the midterms is when he steps down, resigns, has health issues, whatever you want to call it, and Kamala takes over. I just think there's too much, the right is going to run like, they labeled Biden as some radical progressive and ran on that, right? Kamala, they're going to be able to use all the identity crap and racism they've been fueling. And I don't see how that would help Democrats in the midterms to have Kamala there.
Well, the only way I think that it would help Democrats is it'll be like a rallying cry. Because right now they have no rallying cry at all.
But then they would have failed. It would be perceived by voters as, you failed. Look at, they would, Republicans would come out and say the Democratic Party is in shambles. Joe Biden is trash and, removed. And I don't know.
All that's true. Just saying.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we got about 30 minutes left. I usually like to do these for about 2 hours. So I want to get to this next topic, and we can take any questions.
Pat, do you have the whole time to stay, or do you have to leave?
No, I'm good. Okay. Thank you for asking them.
All right, cool. So, we can wrap up after this last segment, take a few questions afterwards, because we kind of discussed where we stand on defund the police. I argue for that very passionately. And when I was discussing,
Okay, hold on, time out. You started this with like you jumped straight in the hardest, like most depressing angle. You owe it to us to end on a lighter note. Don't go back to police shit at the end. You started with that and with something lighter.
I wish I had good news for us to talk about. But I think us ripping on Joe Biden is pretty good times, right? I mean, if you guys have any positive stories, I would love to read them. I wish
Let's
I
take bets on how long we think Biden will last in office. I say not the end of the year.
I'm saying early 2023 he's out, because that gives Kamala time to separate herself from him, but not enough time in power to make a lot of decisions that could be used against her.
Wait, before didn't you say 2022 originally?
Nope, I've always been 2023.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're 2023. What about you, Nick?
I'm actually gonna take a left curve here. I think he probably stays the whole term. We see, because I don't right now.
His brain is melting as we speak.
I know
there is no possible way he can make it the whole term
unless he just dies. I think they have access to medicines that we don't, where they're gonna just keep him just alive and functioning to have him as a meat robot. That's what he is now. Anyone who believes that Joe Biden is making any like legit decisions are out of their goddamn mind. So as much as I always talk shit about Joe Biden for breaking his campaign promises, I honestly don't think he has any choice. So like he's like his administration is being ran by the swamp. So as long, especially since people have been calling it out, the right wing have been like, oh, Joe Biden just a plant president. For example, I think they might try to prevent that from happening by keeping him on drugs, using wherever they can to keep this dude alive. I mean, we've already seen how shameless they are when it comes to keeping him out of public appearances.
That's what they're doing right now, though, and it's not even working. That's what the gaps are. That's the gaps in his medication. He can't make it that long. By the way, I would just like to point out that the people on YouTube overwhelmingly agree with me. Just throwing that out there.
About what?
They're saying agree with Jackie and definitely before 2022. And somebody else said he's not making it a year.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I know my prediction is less unpopular, but I at least want to explain to you guys how I come to that conclusion. You guys will be Nick, right. I think you guys will be 100% right if Biden dies. But I think as long as Biden is a walking corpse, I think they're just going to keep him as the head of state because he's the best empty person in the suit they can ask for, and that just make it super. And then once his health deteriorates, I awful at saying that word, but then they can say in 2024 they're like, yeah, Joe Biden, he put in 4 years, he's getting a little bit older now, so instead we're gonna have Kamala Harris on top of the ticket. That's honestly what I think is gonna happen. Even if Joe Biden is like a zombie the last 2 years, Joe
Biden is a zombie right now. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you,
dude. Henry Kissinger is like 97, 98, dude. If they can keep that guy alive, I think they can keep Joe Biden alive for 4 years using the best medicine that we don't have access to. So once again, I think where I'm wrong is if Joe Biden just dies. But I don't think they're gonna pull him, because I think once again there have been so many lefties that call it out. Even a lot of right wingers called the fact that Kamala Harris is going to be president. She was anointed president. I see right wingers attacking about on that. So I don't think the Democratic Party will give them that victory unless they absolutely have to. But once again, you guys could be right. I just see them keeping Biden alive, and once again, they don't have anyone that challenges them, because it was the left that was challenging Joe Biden on not having press conferences. It wasn't people on CNN and MSNBC. So you're gonna have, like, once Biden health get worse, they might even use that excuse, like, yeah, Biden he's slowing down a little bit, so we can't do that many press conferences. I don't know. I think I agree with gut instinct right now. They're gonna keep him alive to 4 years and then switch to Kamala. But we see. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, I just agree with you. They're gonna keep him. Whatever you think of his mental state, I don't think he's capable of winning a debate in 2024. So if he's on the ticket in 2024, he loses, is my opinion. So the question that really matters. As far as him being mentally there or not, he, like you said, I mean, they love that he's not in charge and not, all there. I mean, that's the perfect leader. So there's no reason to pull him. Even if he's embarrassing himself in public, he can do that for 3 years, and then you can shift in Kamala. Or, like you said, they could just have him say in 2023, "Look, I'm not running now. I think with Black Lives Matter in the streets, Kamala Harris should be our next leader. The people, the time now, Matt. I don't know, whatever bullshit they want to try to spin her as, like the next generation. He can easily hand it over to her without running. So it's not like she has to take over before his election, his term is over."
Yeah, once again, we never know. We see, but
Yeah,
I just don't think, like, the reason I came to my conclusion I did, because I think the only way they will concede that L to Republican Party and to the left is if Joe Biden is literally about to die. I think maybe they had that plan at first. Once they realized Joe Biden was a candidate, they're like, "Oh yeah, he don't have to serve a full term." But I think their plan was too transparent, and too many people called them on it for them to go through with that. But you never know. The Democratic Party has absolutely no shame.
That doesn't stop them ever. They're still going to do it.
Well,
Kamala
was
they
always.
Him, I think they picked him as a cover for Kamala. She was the one that they wanted.
She was picked back in 2015 and couldn't get it done, and still couldn't get it done all the way. Here we are. It was 4 years later and she still couldn't get it done. And now she's the VP. So they're pretty transparent that they've always wanted her. It's just the public is not aware of a lot of this.
Yeah. So I think that's why I think he's not finishing this term. I'm nearly positive of that, because they don't necessarily want him to finish this term. If I'm wrong that he makes it past this year, then I concede to Pat that he will go to the end of 2022. So he'll get like halfway, and then Kamala will step in, and then they'll try their best to get her reelected. But in the meantime, like in that 2 years while she is president, they will do their best to come up with an evil Republican that she can run against, so they can be like, "See, lesser of two evils again," because they need it. It's like Batman and Joker.
The problem is if you're a strategist and you're thinking about some plan of putting Kamala in power, if she takes office now, she has a lot of record to defend by 2024. So I don't see why they would want to put her in now and have her own a lot of this stuff that is going to be a mess during the recovery.
No, I agree with you. I don't think they want to. The reason why I'm saying he can't make it to the end of this year is because I don't think his brain is going to allow him to make it to the end of this year. It's not a Democratic strategy. I agree with you on Democratic strategy. I just think, like, they were able to prop up Reagan because he was cohesive more than Biden has been. Like Biden, and that's with the drug. Like they're already giving him the best drugs. They had to start doing that in the primary.
He's not dead yet, and Kissinger is still walking the earth. So I don't have a lot of hope in any of this.
Kissinger is Satan's spawn. He will never die. I don't know why people keep thinking he will. He's eternal. That's what happened. Karl Rove is going to outlive us all. And I'm about 170 years younger than him. So that's just how it works. When you're evil, you're immortal. They're demons. It's just, and I don't even believe in any of that. But I'm just saying, they're not going to die. They're going to live forever, or at least until humans go extinct. So another 30, 40 years.
Fair enough.
By the way, Pat's old.
I am.
That made me feel better. Anywho,
let's see. I'm trying to see what else is going on in the chat. See if I can find a question.
Oh, you did not, Max. Somebody just called me jank. Oh, that was the.
Is that what you're talking about? I should ban you.
Max just said, okay, Jank, he's leaving this year. No, I just pre-conceded to Pat that I could be wrong. Again, my whole thing is that his brain is coming out of his ears. If they can keep him propped up long enough, then I think that Pat is correct. I may not ever say those words again, so relish them.
I'm going to clip the video.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm making a GIF as we speak.
No, don't do it. Make a clip of Pat is old. Do that. Just play that on repeat. I better stop making fun of him or he'll show me his evil cat and he'll steal my soul.
True.
Yeah. Don't hate on old people. I'm old too. I don't hate on old people. I'm making fun of Pat. Look, give me this, okay? I don't have a lot. Just let me have this. Okay.
So,
Boot to the heads, or Rocky Flame says we'll probably see Tom Cotton as his running mate. Pat is 50, just in case anybody wanted to know. Megan asked. She's like, how old is he? He's 50.
Megan. Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Did you have anything else for us, Nick?
I don't have much. I was about to show this clip. Since I pretty much like I bash Biden all the time because he keep giving us so much ammo. And what I was getting to earlier, I wasn't trying to get into a depressing story. I was sharing my backstory of why I would never consider voting for this guy. Because as we said on our show previously, you can't expect Jim Crow Joe to change his ways. I saw the footage of the police violence in Portland, and that's Biden's America. He loves that shit. So I just want to play this clip. Let people know. Maybe I should start the screen share early here. But this came out yesterday, and this kind of lit Twitter on fire because this is once again just showing Jim Crow Joe is who he is. I mean, what's the and I was telling people, like, if you look at the most core important issue between Biden and Trump, not a big difference. You're not gonna like this. They're pushing the same forces of oppression that harms my community. So I was telling, especially a lot of white progressives, I'm like, if you think voting for Joe Biden over Donald Trump is best for you, that makes sense. Whatever, you can be comfortable. That's fine. I'm not mad at one person who voted for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. My argument always was, I'm not going to vote for someone who's been one of the biggest oppressors to our community over the last 40 to 50 years. Period. Amen. And I'm sorry that it might cause you mental duress that Trump is in the White House, but maybe that may motivate you to support the progressive next time instead of this war criminal who is responsible for building all the America's problems. So while I bring up here, we seeing Joe Biden act just like Trump using the same rhetoric, and people are starting to see it now. So this clip came out yesterday. So let's hear what we had to say. I want to make sure you guys can hear it. Can you guys hear it? I'm still not sure how halves work.
I can't hear it, but that doesn't mean other people can't.
Yeah, so I think our viewers will be able to hear this, right? So I'll play the video. Hopefully, our viewers let me know if
they say they can hear it.
Okay, so I'm gonna play the video and I can sum it up for you guys just in case you miss it. So let's play the video. It's only like 50 seconds.
Can you click on it to yeah? They can't hear it.
They can?
Oh no, maybe hold on. Some can, some can't.
Let's see. Someone have a message for you, Pat.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, I'll just reading some shit I see on the comments here. So they said they cannot. Never mind, can't hear. Okay, so it's not a big deal if I share it. So what the video is, I'll put the link to the Twitter and the YouTube chat at least so you can check it out. So pretty much when asked about the police shooting and police killing unarmed black people, Joe Biden reverts to the same script that Donald Trump uses, where instead of condemning police killing unarmed black people, he immediately deflects to, no matter what happens, I call for everyone to peacefully protest because there is no excuse ever for violence and for looting. And my response to that is very simple. Why is it no excuse for violence when it comes to protesting police violence? Why you can't have any looting, but that's unacceptable. But when police kills people, that's not unacceptable. When police implement civil asset forfeiture, which is civilian looting, that's not unacceptable. So I think it speaks volumes that he decides to do propaganda for the prison industrial complex. So I just want to kind of get your theory on this, Pat. So why does Joe Biden use the same exact talking point as Donald Trump? Is it a state thing? Because is it almost like a script they're giving? Does this like I know you didn't see the clip, so hopefully I'm not.
No,
I
did see it. I did.
Okay,
I watched
cool,
that
cool.
clip.
So what's your
this.
thoughts on that? All right, cool.
So it's pure politics and it's gross. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's like
he's trying to.
Yeah, he's trying to appeal to more people on the right with his message than he offends on the left, is the theory behind his comment. So, I mean, what really is disgusting to me is they show their anger at the looting side of it. They're not like, please don't loot or please do something. You know, they have to present themselves as like this tough on crime thing that goes back to the 80s that has been sold to both sides of you know, Democrats and Republicans were both tough on crime forever. You know, it was a fight to see who could be tougher on crime for a long time. And you got to realize Biden is an old motherfucker. So when he goes off the cuff and isn't reading a prompt or being coached on something, he always reverts to this 1980s political brain that he has of how people were perceived, how things were perceived. So he's like, I got to be tough on crime.
Yeah.
And they don't want to lose people on the right. I mean, that's the whole thing. He's like, he wants to be anti-looting is like seen as a safe view, which you know, I'm not saying anyone should be like pro looting, but like for his moment in that clip to be physically changed emotionally about the looting part and not the violence part is the most offensive part to me.
I just see it as he's a Republican. That's why he was always tough on crime, because he was further to the right than Reagan on crime. He's been to the right of most people when it comes to crime. So when he's off script, he's just being himself. He's not even like that. That's just him, because he is a racist and he is a tough on crime. Like, the rules for you, not for me, because his son had drug problems, but he's the one who authored the bill to lock up people who have drug problems, which means he never had any intent for the rules to follow him, like for them to be used on him. It was just for everybody else. And I don't know, to me, it's just par for the course when he says shit like this. I'm not surprised at all, because he's always been like this. So, yeah, I mean, during the primaries, he said, shoot him in the leg. He cares more about property than people, and he always has. So it's not surprising to me.
And that's why he sending more military equipment over to police, because he really believes they should shoot him in the leg. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, he does. And people forget, you know, I don't know how much people even know. I mean, I think most people watching this show probably know this stuff, but he did author the crime bill. He claims that he was the author of the Patriot Act, though he wasn't. But the final Patriot Act was written on legislation that he created, essentially. So it's not that unbound to say he was the author of the Patriot Act. He was the main force behind making medical and student debt unforgivable in bankruptcy court, because he worked in Delaware, which is where all the LLCs file, because they have tax laws that make it a shelter. So he was represented by the big banks and credit card companies. So, I mean, Biden is behind all this stuff that created these problems. So it's no shock that he's not really going to fix these problems, because look, I mean, he could. I mean, I'm not saying he couldn't, but you know,
But why would
when
he
his-
want to? He's the one who lobbied to put them in place.
his
So
donors
why
put him there.
he has no interest in doing anything about it.
I mean, you could argue, that was 20 years ago, but 30 years ago, but do something now. And nothing has shown that he's going to do something now. But I mean, I'm not going to say he couldn't do something. He's, conceivably he's not beholden to the banks like he used to be. He's a president that's dying, but I mean, that's just.
But he's also 78 years old and he's too late in life to change streams. So
No, I don't disagree with you that he's not likely to, but I'm just saying there's a possibility as an old person dying, he has some come to Jesus moment at the end of his life. But that's just, I have this optimistic, anything's possible thing.
You have like
it's
a
not
Disney
gonna happen.
filter for
It's
life.
not going to happen. Don't think for a second any of that's going to happen. I'm just saying I was playing the devil's advocate on that view. Wouldn't it be nice? Like he's Jeff Bezos. He's got cancer and he's got 2 months to live, and he's like, oh, let's give them Medicare for all.
No, that's not. Yeah. I feel like you're like the Disney version, and I'm like the Winter Soldier version. Like they're not compatible, but hey, keep hope alive, man. That was the slogan of the '80s.
My thing on this is when people show us who they are, we need to start believing them immediately. And there's nothing more that I wanted to do than defeat Donald Trump. But Joe Biden, time and time again, during the lead up of the election, was proving himself to be disqualified. And people, I always tell people, nothing happens in politics for no reason. Like people who think, oh, he did this because on a whim, you guys are idiots. What I mean by that, I remember last summer when the story of the DHS, there was kidnapping protesters and violating their civil rights, and they were just doing horrifically illegal stuff where they were just snatching people off the streets to the point where you even have liberals and conservatives like, yo, what the fuck is this? Well, maybe not conservatives, but even you have some liberals like, yo, they can't do this. This is insanity. And they were just using that as another reason to vote against Trump because they said, see, Trump is using DHS to kidnap protesters. Meanwhile, me having the ideology that I just told you, saying that people, they don't say or they refuse to say something for a reason. What I mean by that. So you had Democrats all over the country that was even saying that Donald Trump has to rein in the DHS and what he's doing illegal. And while this shitstorm was going on, who didn't say anything? And I was tweeting about it constantly. Like, why ain't Biden not saying anything about this? During the whole civil rights violation incident, Joe Biden did not condemn Donald Trump for it one time. And once again, people might think, oh, you're just busy doing something else. And then that's why I mentioned what I said earlier. They don't say or they fail to not say stuff for a reason. So Joe Biden didn't speak out against Trump's abuse of DHS and his power. And I said it at the time. I can find the tweet because I said he's planning on using it too. And then now there are clips all over. I haven't seen all of them because I don't watch all of them. I just saw them on my timeline that left flank vets and a lot of people were sharing were the same kind of police violence that happened on Trump is happening under Biden. So I told people, he didn't say anything about Trump when he was complicit with DHS because he planned on using it. That's why I tell people when they show you who they are, believe them. So with that said, I had the last word on this, and we can get ready to wrap up.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, obviously, the biggest problem we have is that the press isn't reporting on any of this honestly. Like if the mainstream media reported on all this honestly, this stuff wouldn't happen. Do you think? Okay, so Biden literally held up. He negotiated giving out the vaccine to Mexico on putting more, spending a lot of money on enforcement to keep people from coming up here from the border. Do you think that would be an acceptable position for progressives? Like if Trump said, "I'll give you guys the vaccine in Mexico if you stop people from Mexico coming into our country," is that fair? Would they let that go? But the press doesn't even cover that story. That story didn't exist as far as the press goes, so there's, so what I always say is like, okay, if you're on the right and you're bought into all this bullshit ideology of the right, it's garbage, but you watch TV and that there's this media bias and it's bullshit. and the media is lying to you, that helps. It helps it helps them continue to believe that the media is lying against conservatives, and it enables you to buy into bullshit like Trump's, so to me, the press is our number one enemy in all of this. I mean, we need a fair press, and that's why it's so important that independent media gets more popular, more people trust independent media, more sources, more people start to see that the mainstream media, they tell some truths, 70% of what they talk about is truth, but then they push some bullshit 30% of the time. It does a lot of harm.
Well said.
Ditto.
Well said. So, appreciate everyone for watching. Have my good friend Pat the Berner on. Very, very fun conversation. We appreciate you coming on. But you guys know we upload daily. Tomorrow you will see content from my good friend CJ. So please like, subscribe.
How many good friends you have? Damn, you just
I'm a
good friends
friendly
with
guy.
everybody.
I'm a good friend. I'm a friendly guy. So hit the bell, because they will know what they've been doing to independent media. I mean, there have been people that are saying that they don't even get notifications from media outlet like Status Quo, for example. And as a growing independent media network here, we're going to face a lot of challenges with the algorithm. So it's very important. And that's why I'm shamelessly asking for support, because the grassroots is how we grow. So I always say this: if you just share it to one friend, it doesn't even have to be a lefty. That helps out us out a lot. So stay tuned. Is there anything that you want to plug, Pat, before we sign off here?
I forgot I wrote a book or two, so I got to do my pimp section with the book.
But they're not very funny.
So people who don't know, I write political satire. It's my second book. Yas Queen Chronicles. You can go to savageandpat.com.
Nice. Anything you want to plug, Jackie? Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Boop. That's
cool.
my copy.
Look at that. There you go.
One day
Double
I might
plug.
read it. Just kidding. Yeah, go to savageandpat.com. Go to FHL on Anchor. Later on today, the first episode of Nerdolitics will hit with me and Killjoy Meg. Super fun. We're combining nerd culture and politics. It's awesome. Aside from that, hopefully we will have a website up soon for you guys that'll have everything. But yeah, well, if you're on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. If you're on Twitch, follow us on YouTube. You know the drill.
Awesome. Thank you guys for checking us out. Actually, I'll let Jackie. She controls the stream.
You know what? So Boot to the Head just said, give me a link. I will give you a link on my Twitter. Okay. I'll post the link to everything on Twitter. So just go to my Twitter, which is @PolsJackie or FHL. Same shit. You'll see a twink. You'll see a link. And I might even link to Pat's book. Maybe, if he's nice to me.
It's not worth it.
Shut up. You love me, Sugar
appreciate
Bee.
it, you guys. Good
All
talk.
right.
Look, I think you end the stream, so I'll let you sign us off, Jackie.
I already did. It's
Oh,
in the
cool.
process of ending. Right.